Today's pleasant walk will take us to quiet and public places like Las Cortes. At first, we will lose ourselves in very popular neighborhoods and then stroll along wide avenues such as Recoletos or Alcalá, places where we will find the tireless footsteps of our protagonist. We will conclude the walk in the place where the first residence where Claret lived in Madrid was located, the Hospital Church of the Italians. Let's go there.
Itinerary of the fifth walk, from Chamberí to Las Cortes.
It begins in the Glorieta de Iglesia in the Santa Teresa and Santa Isabel temple. From there, we go to the disappeared prison of El Saladero in the Plaza de Santa Barbara. We walk towards Santa Isabel's school. A little farther on is the Church of San Anton. Opposite this is what remains of the Magdalena convent. Crossing some streets, we arrive at the Góngores convent. We then arrive at the Church of the Salesas Reales. Going down to Recoletos, we find the Church of San Pascual. Going down Calle de Alcalá, we visit the Church of San Jose. After a short walk, we arrive at the Cortes, the Spanish Parliament. Going up the Carrer de San Jerónimo, we arrive at the disappeared Church of the Italians, where this walk concludes. Let us begin our tour at the church known as Chamberí, the name by which Father Claret called the present-day parish church of Santa Teresa and Santa Isabel, located on the Glorieta Pintor Sorolla, which replaced the poor and popular Chamberí chapel that belonged to the parish church of San Jose.
It was inaugurated in 1856, attacked and burnt down in 1936, and later restored. Its interior is notable for the main altarpiece, an 18th century Baroque work previously in the church of Becerril de Campos.
In March 1859, Father Claret gave 2 missions in this church, one for women and the other for men. In a Madrid newspaper, this note was written on April 6, 1859, about these missions.
What has enlarged the heart in expressions of holy rejoicing has been to witness the distribution of the Holy Eucharist by the worthy missionary, His Excellency and illustrious Father Anthony Mary Claret, on March 27th and April 3rd, the 2 respective Sundays of the General Communion. What a joy to see for the first time in this church more than 300 faithful on the first day, and a similar number, perhaps more, on the second, approaching the Holy Table.
And now, going down Calle de Santa Engracia, we come to the Plaza de Alonso Martinez. From there, we can go to the nearby Plaza of Santa Barbara, where the famous prison called El Saladero was located at the time of Father Claret. Having recognized the inconvenience of the prison being located in the town hall itself, it was moved in 1831 to the house called El Saladero, next to the Portillo de Santa Barbara, which, due to its security and good layout, offered advantages over the old premises.
This was one of the few buildings that Ventura Rodriguez managed to construct in Madrid. It was built during the reign of Charles III as a pig slaughterhouse to supply Madrid with bacon. It was demolished in 1887.
Father Claret, on his initiative, promoted a mission in this prison in March 1868 together with other priests. All the prisoners filled the chapel and observed the greatest order and attention. On entering Calle de Hortaleza, we soon see the Casa de Misericordia de Santa Isabel on the right. A house with a residence and a school. The Sisters of Charity run it. We can still see it today. Sometimes, Father Claret accompanied the Queen or the Infantas to this house. On other occasions, he would go to give communion to the girls.
As a contemporary newspaper writes,
In the Santa Isabel school, the girls who had prepared for and perfectly instructed in Christian doctrine made their first communion today. The act has been extremely tender, seeing these innocent creatures approaching the sacred altar full of zeal and showing on their faces the enthusiasm and holy joy with which they were overwhelmed on receiving the bread of the angels and on hearing the paternal voice of His Excellency Archbishop Claret, who with his eloquence and apostolic zeal made them aware in a heartfelt talk the happiness they were enjoying at that solemn moment.
Continuing along Calle Hortaleza, we reach the Church of San Antonio Abad. This is the famous Colegio de San Anton. Charles IV ceded the convent of the suppressed Hospitallers of San Anton to the Piarists in 1794, whose church was in the Hurigueresque style and built by Pedro de Ribera. After its transfer to the Piarists, it was renovated by Francisco Rivas in neoclassical style.
The most important work of art in this church, and the most notable canvas of all the churches in Madrid, is Goya's painting depicting the Last Communion of St. Joseph of Calasanz from 1820. The famous pilgrimage of San Anton was held here on January 17th, from the Red de San Luis to the heights of Santa Barbara, especially between the Colegio de los Escolapios and the convent of the Recoletos de Santa Maria Magdalena. The animals and cavalry were first blessed, and then a country pilgrimage commenced with a parade of colorful horses.
It was in this church that Father Claret presided over the procession of the Blessed Sacrament in 1857, giving communion and imparting the episcopal blessing on the feast of St. Joseph of Calasanz.
Today, the famous Father Angel and his association, Messengers of Peace, run the church.
Opposite the Church of San Anton was the Church of the Magdalena. These were the Augustinian Sisters of St. Mary Magdalene, called Recoletos, because they were in charge of the house of detention where women were brought by resolution of their husbands, parents, or judicial authorities.
It was founded in 1623. The house and the facade of the church were rebuilt in 1900. The interior is an old one, with a simple nave. Neither the architect nor the date of construction is known. In 1936, the altarpieces and images were burnt to the ground. Today, it has been restored and deconsecrated.
It is recorded in a letter from Father Claret to Father Chiffre that on March 14, 1860, he finished a retreat with them, which they all made great use of it. Following Calle de Hortaleza and turning left into Calle Gravina, we go down to Calle Luis de Góngora, where the convent called Las Góngoras is located. This is the Mercedarias Calzadas, named after Minister Juan Felipe Jimenez de Góngora, the king's commissioner for the definitive foundation. Therefore, it has nothing to do with the name of the street they occupy by Luis de Góngora, a name given in the 20th century.
Philip IV wanted the sisters to occupy the convent he had founded, the Convent of the Conception, in memory of the birth of Charles II, in whose church Mass was said around 1665. Its architect was Manuel del Olmo, the same as that of the Comendadores, and it is one of the most typical of Madrid's Baroque style. In 1775, it was repaired by the neoclassical Joseph de la Vaina, who left the interior untouched. Of particular note is the fantastic main altarpiece, one of the most refined in the city, the unregistered work of Ventura Rodriguez.
It was in this church at the height of apostolic activity that Father Claret gave a retreat during Lent in 1859. From there, going down Calle de San Lucas and Calle Santo Tomé, we come to the Plaza de las Salesas, where the Church of the Salesas Reales is located. Current Parish Church of Santa Barbara. The convent and church are magnificent, erected by Queen Barbara de Braganza and Fernando VI. The first four nuns arrived in 1747. Temple, monastery, outbuildings, and gardens, reaching as far as the Rondas and Recoletos, were built with every luxury from 1750 to 1758. In 1870, the Salesas were expelled and the government dedicated the monastery to the Palace of Justice.
The main altarpiece stands out in the magnificent church, whose first architect was Carlier, the same as the architect of the Church of El Pardo. The high altar is made of Carrara marble. 3 sepulchral monuments can be seen, those of Fernando VI and Barbara de Braganza, of Sabatini and Francisco Gutierrez, and that of General O'Donnell, 1st Duke of Tetuan, with whom Father Claret was so closely associated. When the architect Carlier died, he was replaced by Francisco Moradillo, who softened the Rococo style of the previous architect.
In this same church in February 1860, Claret conferred the religious habit on Mrs. Emilia de la Hoz y Liniers, daughter of the director of the Madrid afternoon newspaper La Esperanza. The following year, he attended her religious profession. Going down the Paseo de Recoletos along Calle Barbara de Braganza, we continue to the right along the pavement until we come to the simple entrance to the Church of San Pascual, just past Calle Prim. The Franciscan Sisters of San Pascual Convent was founded by the Admiral of Castile and the Duke of Medina de Rio Seco, Don Juan Gaspar Enriquez de Cabrera, in 1683.
They were nuns of San Francisco Descalzas, of the reform of San Pedro de Alcántara, who came from the monastery of Almonacid de Zorita. He converted the theater hall of his palace into a church for them and enriched it with a magnificent collection of paintings by the best masters. These paintings disappeared with the French invasion. In 1864, the convent was finally demolished. The current convent was built on its site in 1866, and the church was restored.
It is recorded in the newspaper El Católico that in October 1850, Father Claret officiated at the taking of the habit of Miss Antonia del Barrio Espejo, probably at the invitation of Don Fermin de la Cruz and Don Jose Ramirez Cotes, in whose house he was staying as he prepared to go to Cuba. And we arrived at the Glorieta of Cibeles and its magnificent unique frame. Going up the street of Alcalá, almost at the crossing with the Gran Via, we enter the Church of San Jose. It is still architecturally the Carmelite convent church, the first convent in Madrid of the Discalced Carmelites, a convent of the fraternal association known as the Orden de Varones, established in 1605.
The original church, dedicated to San Hermenegildo, was rebuilt in 1742 in the Madrid Baroque style. It is considered the work of Ribera. The facade was altered at the beginning of the 20th century. It is a church rich in works of art, with the Abandoned Christ by Alonso de Mena from 1635, an outstanding masterpiece. On the left transept is the large chapel of Santa Teresa, a small church in its own right. It has borne the title of the parish of San Jose since 1836, with the expulsion of the Descalzos. Simón Bolívar was married in this parish, which was then located elsewhere. Saint Michaela of the Blessed Sacrament was also baptized here.
Let us listen from the mouth of Father Claret what happened to him in this church.
On the 15th of October, the feast of Saint Teresa, in the year 1859, I was to be assassinated. The criminal entered the church of Saint Joseph on Calle de Alcalá, a famous street, with the perverse intention of waiting for a time to carry out the crime. On entering the church, he was converted through the intercession of Saint Joseph, as the same person made known to me. The assassin introduced himself to me, saying that he was an individual of the secret sects, and it had fallen to his lot to assassinate me, and that if he did not do so within 40 days, he would be assassinated, as he had killed others who had not fulfilled their commitment. The assassin began to cry, embraced and kissed me, and then left to hide to avoid a sure death for not having carried out his task.
The book Missal with the hole where he hid the gun with which he was to kill him is kept in the Museum of the General Curia in Rome.
Once we're here, we can take the opportunity to visit the Church of Las Cortes. Although there's no record that Claret visited it, it may be of interest to go inside to see the magnificent altarpiece of the main altar, the work of Curigliera, and to contemplate an image of Claret in the chapel dedicated to the Virgin of Montserrat and the Catalan saints. The only statue of Claret in Madrid in the non-Claretian church.
Crossing Calle de Alcalá, we enter Calle del Marqués de Cubas, the former Calle del Turco where General Prim was assassinated. At the end of the street, we come to Carrera de San Jerónimo, where the Congress of Deputies, known as Las Cortes, is located. Before its construction, this site was occupied by the Church of the Holy Spirit. It was inaugurated in 1850 by Queen Isabella II. It was built according to a project by Narciso Pascual Colomer. Together with the Royal Theatre and the National Library, it is one of the most notable buildings of the 19th century Madrid.
Neoclassical in style, it has survived to the present day without significant modifications. The frontispiece is by Ponzano, as are the lions, which are cast from the cannons taken from the enemy in the war in Africa in 1860. The entire interior is richly decorated.
Father Claret arrived in Madrid when the Congress had barely been inaugurated, and it is possible that he accompanied the Queen on occasion to some official act. But there is no record of these. However, he was at the center of heated controversies in the sessions of April 1861. A printed material was the center of the conflict. A picture of hell with 3 condemned men, where a ruthless man thought to put the names of 3 deputies, Figuerella, Mados, and Olosaga, and so illustrated, put it in an envelope and send it to the post office with this address, Al Congreso, to the Congress. While we are here, we take the opportunity to say that the first time Father Claret was in Madrid was when he was on his way to the Canary Islands in 1848. He stayed at the house of Don Jose Ramirez Cotes, who lived at the Plaza de las Cortes 4, and was the uncle of Mother Sacramento, whom he saw for the first time in his life. The Hotel Villarreal now occupies the site of that house. We now walk up Carrera de San Jerónimo to the corner with Sedaceros because that is where we find the Iglesia Hospital de Italianos. This hospital was founded by the rulers of Naples, Sicily, and Milan for the poor natives of those kingdoms in 1598. It was officially entitled the Pontifical and Royal Hospital of St. Peter and St. Paul.
Its public church was remarkable for its simplicity and good form, and was under the immediate protection of His Holiness, exercised by the Apostolic Nuncio. The palace of the Nuncio, with the church and Italian hospital, disappeared in 1885. They were located on Carrera de San Jerónimo, on the corner of Sedaceros, where the extension of the Congress of Deputies is now located.
From May 1857 to the autumn of 1859, when he was appointed protector of the Hospital de Montserrat, Claret lived here at the invitation of Fermin de la Cruz, rector of the hospital. He soon began an unusual apostolic activity throughout Madrid, but especially in the church of this hospital. At the same time, Claret devoted his time to writing books such as El Ferrocarril, which were published in bookshops and newspapers. In December 1858, during his stay here, he conceived the project of erecting a great temple in one of the most central points of the city to serve as a cathedral for the diocese and to be the national monument in honor of the Virgin, the site chosen was the Puerta del Sol itself. Another great project conceived here was that of the Academy of St. Michael, a project that had been maturing since his recovery from the woods of Holguin. The Nuncio of His Holiness communicated to Cardinal Antonelli, Secretary of State, that the Church of the Italians had become the most cultured in Madrid since Father Claret had begun to animate its functions. Having recovered this last Claretian memory, we can now conclude our tour. We could say that Claret could undoubtedly be given the title Apostle of Madrid. Surprisingly, of all the places visited, only the statue erected in the Cathedral of the Almudena remains a public record of his presence in Madrid. Let us hope that at least these steps have ensured that the memory of Claret's presence in Madrid is not buried in oblivion.